Mr. Bellman?
Here.
Mr. Polk?
Here.
Mrs. Lindeman? Here. Mr. Napier?
Here.
Mrs. Winger? Here.
Item 3, adoption of the agenda.
Mrs. Darnold, I've got a couple things to pull
Okay.
for separate votes in the superintendent's consent agenda. 2 items. We need to pull Vincent Lavin out of I and move it to a separate vote.
Okay.
And then we need to pull the entire section of U and pull that to a separate vote as well. And those are the only 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Need a motion to accept the agenda with those 2 items being pulled.
Yes. So moved. Second. Mrs. Lindeman? Yes. Mrs. Winger? Yes. Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Polk?
Yes.
Mr. Napier?
Yes. Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting held on April the 9th. Had time to look in the, Mrs. Darnold is excellent at getting that out to us usually the next day. Are there any additions or corrections? Need a motion?
So moved. Second.
Bellman?
Bellman, Fall.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes.
Mr. Polk?
Yes.
Mrs. Lindeman? Yes. Mr. Napier?
Yes.
Mrs. Winger? Yes.
Number 5, do we have anything for public participation?
No.
Okay, so on item 6, special commendations, as it was alluded to in the beginning there, our community is very generous in their donations to the school, especially during this time of for unpaid fees. As you see there, you have Crossroads Church gave $50 to the district to support learning by meeting hunger needs. The PTO has several donations there for gym basketball Jones at the elementary assembly, the elementary and middle school staff conference dinner, the elementary field trips, and field day supplies, which we're hoping it doesn't rain for that tomorrow. Valentine's Day cookies, elementary, to the elementary for supplies, and the principal for staff appreciation. There are over $4,200, or there is $4,200 there in donations for unpaid senior fees, given by $2,000 from the Fredericktown Interchurch, Melissa Matthews, Absolute Insurance Restorations, Damon and Tara Hawkins, Stephen Rex, and an anonymous donation for school fees as well. And the FEA, donations for elementary kindergarten registration bags, junior and senior high field day lunch, and FEA road trip snacks. And then the elementary student council for 2 sets of kickballs, bases, and a set of orange cones for soccer goals. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Lindeman? Yes. Mr. Polk?
Yes.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes.
Mr. Napier?
Yes.
Mrs. Winger? Yes. Thank you.
Mrs. Darnold?
Okay, for the month of April, revenue did exceed expenditures by nearly $500,000, it was $497,000. This was due to the reimbursement of ESSER grant, payment of rollback and homestead, and some reimbursement for large medical claims. There were several large expenditures during the month of April that I gave you. I'm not going to go over all of those, but I gave those to you on the sheet. The ones over $5,000, they totaled $349,000 for the month. And the total expenditures for the month of April was $1.6 million. And of that $1.6 million, 57% of that was due to payroll, which that is normal. Then I did receive insurance premiums for next school year. We're receiving a 2% increase. That is very good. Last year, we got a 3.55% increase, so this year it was 2%. That will go into effect in June, because June will pay for July. Overall, single coverage for an employee will go up $4.26 for the month, and family will go up $10.12 for the month for the employees. So overall, for the single, it'll go up about almost $24 for the whole year, and family will go up $57 for the year, which isn't too bad. My other item that I have is my final 5-year forecast, which I do have presented up on the big screen there. All right. So this one is showing where we started. So the projected for the revenue, and then projected for the expenses, and where we're going to end up for the year. So the beginning cash balance for fiscal year '24 was $10,073,000. I am anticipating to end fiscal '24 with a cash balance of $9.7 million. That's a difference of $325,000. So we will end this year with expenditures exceeding revenue by the $325,000. This one shows where all of our revenue is coming from. So 36% of total revenue for the district is coming from local taxes. 58% is coming from state aid, and 6% is other revenue. Other revenue is tuition, Medicare reimbursement, and interest. So that is a small portion, even though that did increase from last year. So compared to last year, actual local taxes only increased by 0.82%, and state aid increased by 2%, and all other revenue increased by 1%. And that, I will be honest, that's mainly due to interest income. So we overall, income did increase slightly over last year. This one is total expenditures for the year. The first thing I notice is the big green box, or the green half of the pie chart here. It is a little skewed. Normally, personnel is anywhere between 75 to 80% of total expenditures. It is skewed slightly due to the transfer of where we transferred the $2 million out of general fund into the 070 fund, the maintenance project fund that is for the maintenance of the K-12 building. So it decreased the personnel costs. It should be right around 80%, and it's saying it's 63%. But overall, you can see that all other expenditures are at 21%. Those are supplies, capital outlay, even like the audit fees, all of that will go into other expenditures. And then our purchase services are at 12%. That actually increased by 1% from last year. So our purchase services are right at the 1.7 million. Our ESC bill itself is over 800,000, so it's almost half of the total of purchase services. And here's our cash balances and income versus expenditures. So at the beginning, you can see that revenue was exceeding expenditures, but as we move forward, expenditures are slowly starting to exceed revenue. So by 2028, our cash balance will slowly start decreasing. The dips in the cash balance on the right-hand side in fiscal 24 and 25, that is for the transfer that we did at the beginning, well, actually last month, and then for next year, the school bus, remodel is built into the forecast, so that is the reason that the cash balance also decreased there. And then in 2026, at this current time, I don't have any large projects that are projected out, so the cash balance does increase in 2026.
Now, they're within the parameters of that. Have you projected any state aid increase in funding through the 5-year?
I am not projecting a state aid increase at this time.
That's what I was wondering if it's built, nothing,
Yeah.
no raises when the state's built into this projection?
No.
Okay.
No, since state aid is basically built on really how many students we
Students, yeah,
get
yeah.
in here. And I have a whole slide on the total enrollment for the district itself. The big thing with us will be as the large number of classes, the class sizes graduate out, and then currently we have some smaller numbers in our class sizes. Unless more students come into the district, we are going to see a loss of enrollment, which would decrease our state aid.
Okay.
This one here is the annual change over revenue and annual change over expenses. So the annual change or projected for revenue is 3.69% through FY '28, where the annual change in expenses is 5.21. So here you can see that where expenditures will start exceeding revenue as well. And then true days cash or cash days on hand. This does fluctuate through the years. We ended FY '23 with 302 days of cash on hand and projected, I have projected by 2024 to end with 236 days. This is an actual decrease of 66 days of cash on hand. It was discussed in the finance committee to possibly look at a cash reserve policy. This will something that will be discussed further, but it will be something that will need to happen within the upcoming school year. And this protects the school itself. So if the school doors close, how many days can we actually operate with no additional revenue coming in? This tells us here how many days we can operate. It is one full school year, then some additional days going into the next school year. So a normal school year really is 170 days. Teachers are paid 179 days, so we could get through a whole school year and then some days. And here is the actual enrollment. So since 2019, the district has lost a total of 43 students, but we have been able to maintain and actually add additional staff as needed, even with the loss of 43 students. It is projected by 2028 that the district will have a total enrolled students or educated students of 1,105 students. That's with kindergarten marked at 92 students, and then with those large graduating classes moving out forward. Any questions on this one? Okay. And then here is what is the average cost, or what is it cost to educate a student in Fredericktown for the school year? So from 23 to 24, we actually increased our cost by $2,405 to educate a student. This is, as you can see, the largest jump in Fredericktown history. This is due to the salary, curriculum purchases, and all supplies that have been purchased through general fund only. So in that amount, that's the 12,000, it slightly increases throughout the year through 2028.
Real quick, then,
Yes. Sure.
So as that goes up, is that because you're spending,
As salaries goes up, that will
salaries
go
go
up.
up but then the number of students is going down?
The number of students will continue to go down,
So,
but the
still have the
cost will
cost,
remain the
okay.
same.
Yep.
I do have the number of students going down, but I do not have projected that we will lose any staff.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
if by chance, that would change that number as well.
Okay.
Or if teachers retire and we hire a teacher, brand new teacher, and that would also change that number.
Right.
And then here is what it costs to actually educate a student per day in Fredericktown. That number is $71.98. That's what it costs per day to educate a student here in Fredericktown. The local portion, or the taxpayer portion, is $20.16, while the state picks up the majority or the remainder of $51.82. So there is the 28% of the tax burden on the locals, but the majority of it falls back onto the state at this current time. And then my last slide is what I projected in November to what actually happened in May. So comparing the forecast to November 23, revenue did come in higher by 3.9% or 565,000. Expenditures came in higher at 1.5 million, but I did not have projected in there that we would do the transfer of the 2 million out of general fund to create the maintenance fund. If that did not happen, actually it would have been a wash. Revenue and expenditures would have came in, it would have been almost a zero difference between the two of them. But that is my forecast. Yeah.
Thank you. You're welcome. It's a lot.
It's a lot there.
It's a lot there, a lot to digest.
And then
Involved.
yep.
Yeah.
And then I did give you
Yep.
the 22-page detailed report, and I put my notes in here as well, that you can see what my explanation for each of my line items are as well through here.
Heather, so I haven't seen or heard much data on Intel coming in lately. But when that happens, I gotta believe that, like, we're gonna grow. If somebody buys some land and starts putting in houses, I know there's a balance with just the way everything's structured now, but I gotta believe we're gonna grow. I think we need to be thinking about that moving forward. Like, once we get the data,
Yep.
like, Intel was such a big thing, we heard so much for so long, and it's kind of, like, I don't hear anything. It's kind of been a halt, I don't know if anybody else does, but, I've not heard much of anything, but we'll see.
I agree. I haven't heard a single thing about it until the last thing I
Yeah.
heard was that it was at a halt.
So that's how I heard.
Yeah,
That is all that I have.
yeah, that's the last thing.
Thank you, Heather.
Yep, thank you, Heather.
Excellent presentation, making the complex semi-complex.
Well, thank you.
Mrs. Darnold, how does the Bear School funding affect the forecast? Is it fully phased in at some point?
We are fully phased in
It is
now.
fully phased in? now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. That happened this school year, that it was fully phased in. And we are still on formula, we are not on the guarantee.
I feel like you hit the bullseye. Am I allowed to say that out loud?
What's
I
that?
feel like you hit the bullseye.
Well, thank
The
you.
moving bullseye. With the forecast, right?
that right.
Or with the, yeah, she hit it.
Need a motion to accept the treasurer's consent agenda.
So move.
Second?
Mr. Polk,
Yes.
Mrs. Winger,
Yes.
Mr. Bellman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Napier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, superintendent's consent agenda.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, to start off here, would like to direct your attention, well, I gave you a packet there too, some more cell phone survey results. This would be what I'll put it up there on the board as well, but this would be your high school, middle school teachers, their survey results. And if I could too, just refer you back also, you received the Parent Advisory Council survey and notes that we held a couple weeks ago, and then also the parent survey that we sent out as well. So I'm just going to share this one and call attention to this one here because you haven't had a chance to see it. So this would be the most recent results from the survey taken by our, given by our administrators to our high school and middle school staff. So right there, I know it's a little harder to see what that says there, but as a staff member, how satisfied are you with the current cell phone policy for students in middle school? And you can see there, very satisfied, 9.5%. Not even satisfied, doesn't even hit the radar with your high school. And you can see the percentages there. Do you believe the current policy effectively minimizes distractions for our middle school students in the classroom and student learning? Current policy had 62% said no for middle school, and you had 77, or almost 77.3 there say no for your high school. How do you perceive the impact of allowing middle school students to use their cell phones during non-instructional time? You have negative impact of, that was your highest reported at 62%. Same question for high school students, negative impact of 63.6% for them. Page 5 there. If changes are made to the middle school cell phone policy, which of the following options would you prefer? 42%, or almost 43%, responded to ban cell phones, cell phone use entirely during school hours. That was the highest reported one there. And then for the high school cell phone policy, which of the following options would you prefer? And you had 50% of your teachers said to ban cell phone use entirely during school hours. As far as some more data, do you allow students to use their cell phones in your classroom for educational purposes? That would be a 57.1% said no, and a 42% said yes on that. Cell phone infractions, and I would ask the principals just to explain a little bit of how this works. For the 23-24 school year, as of probably the 1st of May, these are only the infractions that were logged into the system by the staff. In the middle school, you had 10 log entries, and the high school had 5 log entries. Yes, Dr.
I figured out how to run power school reports.
Okay, 17 for high school? Okay, that helps. So how are those reported, or how does this work with these?
So those are just those are just the ones where a teacher logged it into Power School system as like a disciplinary report. Those are the only ones that come through on that, so just so you know what that number actually is from.
Any questions that you might have for us or principals?
The only thing I would comment is we've only got 21 or 22 responses, which we have 14 or 15 people in here. Like, add 6 more, and out of everybody, like, that's,
staff though.
yeah, but still, like, that's only, what?
Is that only
We got
staff?
63 staff, so it's 33%.
I mean, I only have,
Thought it was 30, and 33, right?
I mean, teacher-wise, I mean, with teachers' aides, I'm
Yeah, good
right
call.
around this number.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Just see-
Maybe that might be
Before I-
including, everybody.
That would be like, yeah.
Yeah, not,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to give you at least that one, so you have the whole package there from a variety of stakeholders as far as survey results. And then one thing I did add to this here that's happened last week, If you look, House Bill 250 is on the governor's desk, and that one should, I guess he's got to make a decision within 10 days from, I believe, last Wednesday. I haven't heard anything as of today. But that would require public schools to adopt a policy governing the use of cell phones by students during the school hours. Also require the districts make their cell phone usage policy publicly available and post it on their website, and requires the Department of Education and Workforce, or the DO, to adopt a model cell phone policy that can be used by districts. So that also, I don't know if that changes the decision or recommendation or not, but hopefully that does inform at least decision here by the board. And if you will notice too, we are introducing our student parent handbook for first reading. I think it's item C. So a first reading means basically you will open it up for review, 30 days, policy I believe. And there were no changes made to the specific technology policy, rule number 11, except for striking out the middle school language, which was kind of redundant, if you will, to what was already there. So that's the only thing we have right now. What I would be asking for is we take all this information, and then board come back and we'll be making a recommendation at the June 27th board meeting. Or at your desire, if you would want to wait until we see what the governor, what that looks like as well. So you do have some options. Right now, I would just need some input on how fast we would want to move, or what other information would you want in this regard? Yes.
I guess, I mean, what did this say to you? As in Ryan and Adam, sorry, Matt, you're like off the hook on this, are you loving that?
We
Yeah,
have a different way of handling cell phones. We have
right.
technology, but not
Sure.
like they.
so is there anything, I mean, did this match what you thought your staff would say, I guess would be my question? Or do you guys have anything additional from last meeting to let us be looped in on?
And right now, based on just the information I have right now, you can see at least in the middle school, staff's gonna split. I would say the one thing that it definitely shows is that, you know, everyone is agreeing as staff. We need to at least tighten up the policy, you know, but, force it, for sure. I think everyone's in agreement on that, but based on just, I don't know, I guess I wasn't really sure where they would lean. So right now it seems like they're gonna split based on this and then have this discussion.
I probably echo that. I thought the 50% ban of high school, I thought was a little more than I would have anticipated. What came out of our ELT was what Adam said. Make sure that we tighten down the current policy, which the current policy does read, you're not supposed to use your cell phone unless you're permitted to teach or visit. But then just having more, they suggested next year having more clear defined consequences and procedures for students have cell phones.
One last quick question, not because I know we could spend all night on it, but I think that last, or second to last slide was middle school data only. Do you allow students to use their cell phones in a classroom for educational purposes? And it looks like 57, or I guess 42.9, whatever, almost 43% said yes. With one-to-one Chromebooks, why? What's the difference?
Well, for some of a lot of those, it's not like an everyday thing. But for some of like the sciences, project either way, some of the projects that they do, or if they do a presentation, they need like pictures of things. And the Chromebook, I've never taken a picture with the Chromebook camera, but the quality apparently is not nearly as good as what they can do with their phones. So they'll have to take a picture with a phone, or they're looking at something cool with the slide sometimes they do the microscope. It's really more things like that. It's not necessarily, from at least what I've
to the not having them? For, like, we're not.
I mean, I know some do not, and they, you know, I've not heard that it's held them back at all.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure maybe, like, if they need a picture, somebody could, we could get one for them, help them out somehow, if they absolutely needed one.
Or if it's a group project, only one person needs to record and take a picture.
Any other questions?
Lot to chew on.
Left to chew on? All right. I'll get into superintendent's consent agenda here. A lot of items, so bear with me. We do have a motion to approve, to move the regular June meeting to Thursday, June 27. That would be for closeout purposes and to combine the regular meeting for the final budget hearing meeting. So we have that on there. And also too, with that being said, I don't have an exact date, but possibly I may be reaching back out to all of you again for a special board meeting between now and that June 27 for personnel issues, if we have some coming up here. We have a resignation of a second shift custodian, and then there is where on item C, a motion to approve the first reading of the handbooks for the 24-25 school year, from athletic to transportation, and then the parent-student handbook. Also, item D is a maintenance agreement with Elite Air for the chiller, and that would be a 3-year maintenance agreement, $5,500 per year, beginning May 1. Also, to approve an annual agreement for Central Ohio Behavior Consulting. F is to approve an agreement with AYA or AYA Healthcare Incorporated for staffing of SLP or speech language pathologist for the 24-25 school year at approximately $80 to $95 an hour. This is a non-binding or not a binding agreement with that, and I think we all are aware of the difficulty of finding our own in-person. This one will be in person, but finding our own speech SLP person here for Fredericktown. Also have an MOU for the Freedom Center for school-based prevention program services. And then also, letter I is a motion to approve the following students for College Credit Plus for the 24-25 school year, and that would be taking out Vincent Lavin and moving him down to be voted on separately. Letter J is a motion to approve the first reading of the Neola policies as listed there. Item K is to approve summer school teachers and aides. And then also L and M is to approve extended school year services as far as tutors and home instruction for this summer. We would also have a recommendation on personnel for the food service department and also a high school social studies teacher, and Ms. Raquel Rivas. Motion to approve the LPDC committee for 24-25 school year and also our College Credit Plus teachers for the 24-25 school year. We have a bunch of volunteers for the elementary field day on May 14th. That says pending favorable background checks, and I think also pending favorable weather.
We're gonna make it happen one way or another.
All right, that's what we wanted to hear on that one. Letter R would be more classroom volunteers and field trips for the remainder of the school year. And then an overnight camp for a boys basketball team to go to the University of Findlay, June 27 and 28. Also to approve graduation, baccalaureate speakers, and supplementals, if you will, for wrapping up the school year. Also then, letter U, or item U, that will be voted on separately, which would include our supplemental contracts for fall coaches and volunteers. And then number 11 would be this superintendent's consent agenda to be voted on separately, which you would have A would be college credit plus classes. You would have also LPDC committee member. Item C would be, again, field day volunteer. And then item D would be College Credit Plus classes, again, for William Fletcher and Vincent Lavin, add him there,
Yeah, we can add him there.
okay? And I believe that is all. Questions?
So is my policy question here or when we get to policy?
We'll need a motion.
Once you get a
Need
motion? Okay.
Need a motion first.
So moved.
Second.
Not
Mr.
really a specific question, but I mean, it is kind of, just, under the first policy, talks about, assessments, and in the policy it says we can either mail them, email them, or there's a portal that, so we typically, I believe, have mailed ours, at least, is that still our plan?
Right now, we're still trying to understand the portal and making sure that that does not conflict. I'm looking at Brenton because we had this discussion last week, make sure that does not conflict with Power School and when we roll over students. I don't know if we got any answers on that, but we would have to notify parents of where that portal is, and how to access it with password. So that would probably be a mailing and an email is what it would be, most likely. So on how the instructions, specific instructions on how to access it. That answer your question? Because now they go to a portal and that's where they access it.
We don't get that in the mail? I
Not
feel like we get a
anymore.
big color, pretty copy that shows our little graph of where our kid is and stuff.
In a variety of ways in the past. Sometimes it's been mailed, sometimes, depending on when we get them, they come back to school. I know if you get the high school and middle school lately, students, and if I'm not mistaken, get them when they come back in the fall.
Yeah, we've had to ask.
But we get a hard copy though, right?
Yeah, that's when you get the hard.
So that's not going away? Our parents getting a hard
Are
copy?
you asking if they're still gonna get a hard copy?
Yeah.
I do believe they are still gonna be provided.
Would we have, I don't know yet for sure, maybe you do.
Okay.
Do
That
we have,
doesn't
we might
matter.
have to print those off, but yet what they're trying to do is direct parents to the portal so they can access all the data and
Sure.
information that goes around it. The other thing too, that we're relying on the state to have all these results back to us by June 30. I think that's the
Yes.
date.
Yes,
So,
that.
hopefully they'll come through on that one because we have to make sure we have everything ready to go and we're ready to kick it out, so,
And that doesn't really affect the policy, it just made me think about
yeah, that's a good question.
this soccer parent.
How's the
needs a
best
hard
way to
copy.
communicate with parents on that?
This is,
No more questions?
so this is items A through T.
Yes. All right, Mr. Bellman,
Yes.
Mrs. Winger,
Yes.
Mr. Folk,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindeman,
Yes.
Mr. Napier.
Yes. Consent agenda, item 11A.
Do you want to do you, or do you want to go to
Hey,
11A?
Let's go, oh, yeah, duh, never mind.
It's okay.
How about you?
Okay. It's okay.
Need a motion.
So move.
Second.
It was Folk and Lindeman. Mr. Folk,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindeman,
Yes.
Mr. Bellman,
Abstain.
Mr. Napier,
Yes.
Mrs. Winger.
Yes.
Now 11A.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Need a motion to accept 11A?
So moved.
Second.
I wasn't looking, is that you?
No.
That was just
Yep,
me,
yep.
sorry. Mr. Folk, right? Yeah, okay, sorry. Mrs. Lindeman.
Yes.
Mr. Folk,
Yes.
Mr. Bellman,
Abstain.
Mr. Napier,
Yes?
Mrs. Winger.
Abstain.
So many. Go ahead.
Item B, need a motion to approve the following staff members for LPDC committee.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Winger,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindeman.
Yes.
Mr. Bellman,
Abstain.
Mr. Folk,
Abstain.
Mr. Napier.
Yes? 2 to go. Item C, to approve the following volunteer for elementary field day and good weather.
moved.
Second.
Mr. Bellman,
Yes.
Mr. Folk,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindeman,
Yes.
Mr. Napier,
Abstain.
Mrs. Wanger.
Yes.
And finally, item D, to approve the following students to participate in College Credit Plus classes. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second. Mr. Bellman,
Yes.
Mrs. Wanger,
Yes.
Mr. Folk,
Abstain.
Mrs. Lindeman,
Yes.
Mr. Napier.
Abstain.
Wow, okay.
Committee reports. Legislative liaison, Mrs.
Alright.
Winger.
Okay. Mr. Chapman stole my thunder a little bit here, so.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Cause the big item is this House Bill 250, which was passed unanimously, by both chambers of the General Assembly. Originally, that bill was introduced to change the name of the military enlistment seal to the military seal, and that was supposed to allow, just broaden the access, I guess, of whoever qualifies for that seal. But after, Governor DeWine gave his State of the State address, and recommended, that districts take a look at cell phone policy, it was amended, that House bill was amended to add the requirement for public schools to adopt a policy that governs the use of cell phones by students, during school hours. So, that also obviously requires, the DEW to create and adopt a model policy that schools can use, but they don't have to use it. It does include exceptions for when, students need to have cell phone usage, to help monitor medical conditions and things like that. And then, the bill will go to, it's actually sitting on Governor DeWine's desk for signature. I haven't heard that it's been signed, but I think speculation is that he probably will sign it. If he does sign it, then districts will have until July 1st of 2025, to have that policy in place. So there's been a lot of bills, introduced recently that kind of have some of this language in them. So there's another one currently that's pending right now. It's House Bill 485. It goes a little bit deeper, and it talks about public schools adopting internet safety policies for students that use internet access provided by the school, and limits access to certain web applications and social media sites. It also requires public schools to provide instruction on social, emotional, and physical effects of using social media. And then, currently, as it's written, it prohibits districts from allowing students to use personal wireless communication devices during instructional time. So, that's pending. It obviously could change a lot between, now and, when it would go to vote, if it would go to vote. So, it's just another, bill to keep an eye on. And then last, this one's also just pending in the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee. And so it may go somewhere, it may not, but it's just interesting because it is a bill that would create reporting requirements for chartered non-public schools. It would require that those chartered non-public schools that are enrolling students accepting vouchers adhere to the same performance accountability measures as public schools, by requiring ODEW to create a state report card that would closely align with the one that's currently in use for public schools. It would also require that they account for any public money that they hold in relation to those Ed Choice or Cleveland Scholarship programs. They would have to account for that money separately. So there's speculation that that bill will receive additional hearings, but it's got quite a ways to go before it would reach a vote, so. That's really it for legislative for this month.
What was, real quick, what was that 485, House Bill or Senate Bill?
It's House Bill 485.
Thank you. Legislative Committee, myself and Mrs. Lincoln.
How about finance?
For Finance, I can't.
We don't have to do it, just
Let's do,
Shelley.
let's do it again.
Do it
Go
again?
ahead, Shelley. Finance Committee.
How about finance? So Paul and myself and Mr. Chapman and Heather met last week, and although this wonderful presentation that she did for us is very necessary, we all know that, you know, things can change. But obviously it's good to be prepared. So I think, you know, as board members, it's our responsibility to kind of keep our ears to the ground too, and be able to give Heather as much, I don't know, outside information that we can give her that could help with that forecast. And then just, you know, what happens in our community affects the district and vice versa, financially, for sure. So, just looking for trends and asking the what ifs and having some conversation around financial decisions that are good for the long haul, as well as all the many things that we approved in the short term. So I think we're in a good place, and it was a good meeting, and continue to learn. I love this tool. I went down to the Career Center for their board meeting, and Tracy popped the same thing up, so.
Good.
That's a great, thank you for the presentation. It helps to see it
Good,
in
thank
color
you.
and graphs, so. That's all I
Yeah,
would take
that's
from
good.
that
Yeah,
meeting.
thank you. Fredericktown Community Development Liaison, Mr. Falk.
I missed my first meeting in 2.5 years, so Mr. Chapman took over for me.
Okay.
We missed you, John. We missed you.
We did miss you, Mr. Fall.
I'll bet.
I'll try to, I'm gonna work hard here.
All right.
Not sure if I can live up to
Take
yours.
notes, Rich.
All right, so here's what I have. This was on Thursday, May 9th. But according to Lisa Faust, the April 20th quarters market was a huge success. She wanted to thank all the many volunteers. It was the biggest event ever that they've had. And look, they're thinking they're going to be even bigger next year. So that was good. We also heard from Emily Shipley. She was recently hired as the new Downtown Experience Coordinator for the Knox County Area Development Foundation. And her initial work, besides meeting a lot of people in the county, is really focusing on the social media presence and trying to clean up and refresh the website. Sam Filkins reported out on economic development. They're still receiving significant amount of requests for acreage for industrial sites in and around Fredericktown. Didn't hesitate to share that Fredericktown is still an attractive location. Obviously with the I-71 accessibility, our downtown area, and strong schools. Also, he mentioned there are still grant dollars available for the downtown facade improvements. We also heard then from Mr. Bruce Snell. He shared some good news on the streetscape, saying it is going well and about 95% on target. Street lights planning to be installed beginning this week. Also heard from the design committee. We'll come back to that too, on bench placement and some draft design banners for 22 streetlights. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, Bruce shared some exciting news in that the village received grant award notification for approximately $800,000 for the safe routes to schools for additional sidewalks. That would be down by Bollinger and the Bell stores, I believe. And also, approximately $500,000 for the bridge enhancement over State Route 95 and State Route 13. This now kicks it back to the design committee for the type of script, possibly railing, lights, etc., as far as how that would look. So pretty exciting week for the village, for Fredericktown in that regard. All of that. I wrote down an estimated project date of 2027.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. But still, just exciting news and pretty neat there. Also, Farmers Market begins the first Thursday in June with they have some new vendors this year. And then Sarah Autry reported out on the 43019 magazine. Next edition is in June. And then they will be having a special edition in July, and that due date deadline is May 15. She also provided updates regarding Memorial Day, 4th of July, and the Harvest Festival in October, so a lot of information, a lot of good things going on with that. Don, I wish you were there to hear it all. It's a good
You
time.
did an excellent job. I just make pass the torch.
I missed you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Knox County Career Center,
Yes.
Lindeman.
Yeah, so attended, kind of flew in on two wheels, last week after our finance meeting, to be down there on last Thursday the 9th. So busy time of year for the Career Center as well, with all the plannings for end of the year and kicking off for next school year. The treasurer, like I mentioned, gave the same PowerPoint, similar, different numbers. Like if they were the same numbers, we should be scared, right? Different numbers, but honestly, that's a program that Mount Vernon and Fredericktown have used. Heather indicated today when I chatted with her that she's been using it like
Almost
her whole life.
27 years, yeah.
And so the Career Center, it's new to them, and Tracy's loving that and finding it to be a good tool, and I think it was a good tool for their board to see that presentation. So I had a whole lot of school finance all in one day. She did share in her forecast of potential growth of up to 100 students by 2028 for the Career Center. You might have seen on Facebook that they recently had a car show, actually just this last weekend. The funds there go to Food for the Hungry. And Jacob Spalding is actually in Chicago as we speak. He's a Freddie Junior, and competed yesterday in business law and ethics, and actually was finding out at 5:30 how he did. He did indicate that test was a little bit harder than the state test, but we'll see. So I'm proud of our Freddie. His parents, I guess, got to attend with him, and so he's really getting to explore Chicago. So pretty cool opportunity for him. And then just the Career Center will hold their awards ceremony May 21st, and we have 6 Freddies that have been selected as Senior of the Year within their specific labs. So that's a go Freddies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Business Advisory Council, Mr. Bellman.
Okay, I've got several things. I was out of town for my mom's birthday when they had the meeting, but I did get notes from some others, so I'll go over those. The big presentation while I was gone was a presentation by the Salvation Army in Mount Vernon. They presented that they are working on a project to build a new childcare facility near their current property in Mount Vernon. The building is going to add 76 childcare spots from 6-year-olds to pre-K and after school. The center will be full day certified childcare. So the Salvation Army's, their current operations, those are going to have to expand. The project's going to cost about $6 million. And then I have an email address if anybody has any questions and want to contact them. That was given to me as well. Knox Aspect wrapped up last week. The feedback I've gotten is that went really well. I believe we had a couple Freddies in that. We talked about that the last time about being able to interview and tour the 13 manufacturing businesses around Knox County. And then I believe Mr. Brown was at this one. I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'll just hit on it quickly. Ohio Means Jobs hosted a career quest at Energy Fieldhouse. Had 40 employers, very hands-on, great turnout. I was down there for about 2 hours, and just great feedback from everybody. I'll let Adam expand on that. But our next meeting is May 29th at 8 a.m. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Policy. Mr. Bellman is one.
Okay, Mr. Bellman and Mr. Chapman and I met with our Neola representative on April 17th. And we had some pretty interesting weather going on outside during that meeting, which was coincidental because our first meeting was canceled due to weather that didn't happen. So, anyway, so that was the exciting part of the meeting because policy is not very exciting. But there were several policies that that we reviewed. I've been told that it was actually a pretty small list compared to normal, so those policies were all listed in the agenda. Most of the changes were housekeeping or just minor tweaks in language, resulting from just recent federal and state mandates. So in order just to stay compliant, there were some minor changes there. You guys, I think, have access to all those for review. So if you have any specific questions, maybe we could answer those, but otherwise, that's really all I have to report on.
Okay, thank you. Does any board members have anything to report out on?
Went to the Board Leadership Institute last Friday and Saturday, a week ago, Friday, Saturday. A lot of good information. Gary and I met, shared a couple things. Going to do a little more research on a couple of things just to have some more information. Shelley and I attended a session together. It was very informative. Heather does a great job with the 5-year forecast and everything she does. And this gave us a little, bonus session on, from another treasurer and just sharing some information. So I felt like money well spent. We got a lot out of it. Some good information. So.
Just to add more, I was there for both days, the sections. The bothered our tech people. Fantastic. I learned a lot about AI and cybersecurity, several different things about how it pertains strictly to school. Made some great contacts. As Mr. Melvin said, money well spent. It's great down there. It's designed by board members, for board members, presented by board members only, people like that. So I learned an awful lot. Very excited when I got back, and well worth it. And thank you for allowing us to go.
Shelley and I split it, so I went down just for the second half of Friday and had an opportunity to sit through what's called spark.org, which is really more of a readiness, early childhood, and how to get our kiddos and parents engaged in education before they get to school, which we all know is super important. So again, I always walk away from those events. Thank you, the district, for paying for us to be able to go and network with other board members and have Fredericktown presence there. And we always walk away. I know I hide my name tag. I don't want anybody to see them from Fredericktown, so I don't want to come and stealing our people, because we've got great people, and we always walk away feeling, I think, pretty good about that. So it's nice to have ongoing training.
Administrative reports.
Oh, look, rock, paper, scissors.
All right, I'll go first. Start in the middle. So a lot of things. I feel like the kids have been going everywhere the last few weeks here at the middle school, which is a good thing. But some of the highlights, the middle school choir recently went down to Kings Island, performed very well down there, had a great day, had a superior rating, got second place at the Music in the Parks down there. So, appreciative of Mrs. Bird and the choir program, taking them down there, giving them that opportunity. Like Mr. Bellman said, career quest. May 9th, the 7th and 8th graders went down. I didn't hear anything negative. The kids seemed to really enjoy it. They were very well behaved, and it was, there was a lot of kids there at once, but you couldn't really tell with how it was spread out. A lot of hands-on things. Kids had, there was a mini excavator type thing. The kids loved that. They got to do that. Some block lane, just a bunch of things where all the kids found something I think that they were interested in. So really good experience for them. Field trip wise, 8th grade went to the zoo last week. Got them out for a little bit. They enjoyed that. Tomorrow, 7th grade is going to take a trip to the reformatory in Mansfield. So that should be fun for them, something a little different. Get some education out of that as well. Hopefully we have field day Wednesday. We'll see what happens tomorrow and Wednesday. Domino effect potentially there, we'll see. Today we had the 5th graders come over for about 45 minutes. Some 6th graders showed them around the middle school, just kind of met a few teachers, just kind of give them the lay of the land a little bit ahead of time. So I talked to them for a little bit, introduced them to Mrs. Barta, Mrs. Art, Mrs. Truex, just kind of
hopefully ease some of their anxiety coming to the middle school. So we did that today. Academic challenge, sixth graders are heading to Mid-Ohio tomorrow for their last competition. They're sixth grader, they're excited. They've been really into it this year, so they get to do that tomorrow. And then we survived Washington, D.C. All 45 kids and 5 chaperones made it back. Had a good time, so starting to pick some dates for next year so we can do it again. So thank you for helping provide that opportunity for the kids. They really enjoyed it. It was a good trip for those 3 days.
I just want to say as a grandparent, eighth grader about those activities, thank you. Thank you for putting there. I know DC was excited and heard a lot about that. The band had a great time there too, heard a lot about that. And the board will be represented at the penitentiary tomorrow. I will be here. They got counted to be a chaperone for the 7th graders. So.
Nice.
I don't know why they picked on me to go there, but somehow.
It's the 30th anniversary of Shawshank.
All
too,
right.
So it's all named Shawshank in Mercer County. Yeah.
High school, we're wrapping up testing. State testing's over. We should have the first round of results coming in, I think, tomorrow. AP testing's over. Seniors will be finishing up their exams tomorrow. AP testing is over. We finished up senior exams. Will be tomorrow. Underclassmen will test Thursday, Friday. We have underclassmen awards Wednesday at 8 a.m. Baccalaureate, we're being getting ready for graduation. We have senior practice Thursday for graduation. Baccalaureate, senior awards Thursday night, starting at 6:15. Seniors took their trip last Friday, to C-75 in Columbus. It seems like they enjoyed that. We had Prom Promise Cookout last week. Cooked a lot of burgers. Thursday, 500 maybe, about equal amount of hot dogs. And then Friday, Adam helped us out. We served the high school ice cream. Adam, Tim, and I scooped a lot of ice cream. We served them ice cream on Friday. That's about it for high school.
This busy time of year, of course, we've already said we're all finishing up with testing. That went really well. Compliments goes to my support staff and intervention staff that started on April 5th, getting students who need accommodations assessments given. So that was not an easy task within the window of time frame that we have to do. Field day, we're going to try to make it happen one way or another. I keep on checking the weather, but we have a plan if that's not the case. Summer school is staffed, and we're set and ready for that. If you didn't get a chance to see Night of the Museum, it's just really a great event. We had a couple of different changes this year. Of course, Sonic Hope with her art flair, that we always have art, but she put her own little twist on it, which was a really nice addition. And they changed some stuff up, but really, I expect to see somebody with white gloves and a tux, like passing out hors d'oeuvres in the gymnasium, because they got the music playing. It's quiet, everyone's walking around, and it's just really neat to see the kids showing off their products to their adults that they bring with them. We've been really busy with field trips also. Field trips both out of the building and in the building. We had the one that was in the building was the bird sanctuary brought birds. It's always nice, and they need a little help getting them out of the buildings. I had to carry the hawk out of the building, which was neat. We had Mr. Chapman helped for a little bit while with the third graders. He learned a few things about Fredericktown as they toured the area. We had several grade levels touring doing walking field trips. We do have, elementary's gonna help do a sort of a clap out for the high school students. Thursday the 16th, around 11 when they're done with their practice. We don't get a chance to do that every year, but this year we're gonna be able to do it. Carolyn Grimm's been working with us on that to make sure that happens. We're also gonna have a clap out for the class of 2031. Yeah, you heard me right, the class of 2031, okay? The 5th graders on the last day of school, about 3:35. Any of you all are welcome to join. The chairs will be flowing, the videos will be moving, and the kids will be cheered on their way out as they move up toward the middle school, which they've already had. Thank you for that opportunity for them. We got a lot of great volunteers. We couldn't do it without them. We're gonna have a ton of volunteers in the school, hopefully tomorrow. Very thankful for some other partners. You looked at the list of donations that we get. The PTO is awesome to us. They do great work fundraising. They partner with FBA for fundraising, and they work hand in hand together. So I want to thank all those folks. Also want to thank FBA for their support in the schools, as well as the contribution that they do for getting kids together for our kids' kindergarten registration. They've been really good partnering with me over the years for those types of things. It's just a good, fun time of year, and we're just hoping that everything just finishes off nice and calm, okay? Because kids are excited right now, okay? Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you. FEA.
Well, we had our first trivia night, and it went well. It was fun, and I was actually able to answer some questions, which I found fun. We were the physically challenged, I think is what we called ourselves, but we got third place, so I was excited. And anytime I can answer a question that Britt was also able to answer, I say that win. We're looking at doing that again because it was fun. We also had a teacher appreciation committee last week, and a great committee that put together a lot of things to recognize our members, so big thanks to them. And FBA would also like to thank the principals for the lovely, yummy Panera bagels, and I now have a new addiction to the everything bagel. Thank you. I also wanted to thank the FBA wants to thank the board office and the school board for the cookie delivery. Those were delicious. And Dear Dutchman also provided cookies for the K-12 staff throughout the week. And the PTO brought in pies for us. And Abby Crable and Carolyn Ladman also made cupcakes and cake pops. So we were sure talking about that. So thank you to everybody that made Teacher Appreciation Week very, very special. So thank you. We are getting ready for our end of the year breakfast, and once again, we'll be inviting you to that. You'll be getting an invitation soon from Mrs. Strickland. It'll be next Monday, starting, I believe it's next Monday, at 7:45. So we hope that you're able to attend that. During the breakfast, we'll recognize our one teacher retiree, and we'll also be recognizing our Friend of Education Award recipients. The Friend of Education Committee received several nominations this year, and we have great nominations. We selected 3 people or organizations to acknowledge. Our individual Friend of Education Award recipient is Mark Buell for the work that he does with our students in our school with the therapy dogs. He's been with us for a long time, so we will be recognizing him. And we are also recognizing Kathy Hoffman of Hospice of North Central Ohio. She has been in our schools and helped on numerous occasions when needed, as well as she does the said about all the sugary goods, they were really good. And we're just wrapping up the last 4 days of school. Not the first time. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Item 13, we're going to go into executive session. We need a motion to enter executive session discussion of personnel and matters to be kept confidential.
Second.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lippman?
Yes.
Mr. Polk?
Yes.
Mr. Napier?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?